This is an Undiscovered Legacy production.
Hello, Scoob believers, and welcome to episode number 95 on the Undiscovered Entrepreneur Get Across the Start Line. And it's me, Scoob, coming at you at whatever device you happen to be listening on. All right, so we're just going to get right into it here. Today's guest is Dr. DeAngelo. Now, Dr. DeAngelo is a seasoned entrepreneur with a passion for helping others. He has firsthand experience in navigating the ups and downs of business, from early ventures all the way up to multi-million-dollar enterprises. He's a visionary with a keen eye for identifying opportunities and developing innovative solutions. His ability to think outside the box has allowed him to create successful businesses in a variety of different industries. But beyond his entrepreneur pursuits, Dr. DeAngelo is a dedicated mentor and coach. He shares his knowledge and experiences to empower others to achieve their own entrepreneurial dreams. So let's listen to Dr. DeAngelo. Salutations, Scoob believers, and we are here again with another amazing entrepreneur. Today we're here with Dr. DeAngelo. Hi, Dr. DeAngelo. How's it going?
Going well. It's going well. How's everything going for you?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and being the Undiscovered Entrepreneur. I super appreciate your time.
Absolutely. I'm more than willing to give you my time to help your community and your followers learn some things that can help them grow and go to the next level.
All right. Speaking of followers, I do need to ask you kind of a semi-serious question. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Are you a Scoob believer?
Yes, I am. I want to actually admit, yes, I am.
Thank you so much for being a Scoob believer, Dr. Angelo. I really appreciate you.
Yes,
all right,
yeah.
So what I like to do here is just kind of get an idea of who you are, besides knowing your name, and kind of what your entrepreneur adventure is and what actually got you across the start line in your entrepreneur adventure.
So the first thing I like to tell anyone about me is that I'm a visionary, and that makes the journey make sense when it comes to entrepreneurship. Because business and entrepreneurship is something that I was always attracted to it, and it was ideal for me to travel that route, having experience what it was like seeing my mom kind of make money on her own without a job, and my father also. So for me, what my experience has been like, and I have to be honest, it's been the rockiest experience I ever could. I can't. It's not a perfect that dream win big all the time. It's not that, and it's not. It's so unideal and unrealistic to share any wisdom that would help or make anyone believe that that's what it is. So for me, I started in entrepreneurship probably when I was a kid. Me and my sister and my brother, we sold candy on our front porch in the neighborhood. So that was my first taste of what it was like to have a transaction with someone in exchange for goods and services for what essentially is monetary gain to afford a different opportunity. But as I got older, studied business in my bachelor's program. And then I always pay attention to systems with business. And one of the things that stood out to me in that program when I got my bachelor's were the different type of systems and how businesses operate. Like there's different types of bureaucracies that align with whatever your service, your product, the experience that you're providing, or even the knowledge that you're selling to the public. It's all designed in the system. So I know it's a lot to say right now, but it'll make sense throughout the journey. And what I've been able to experience was having the failures and the success all along my road and my journey of entrepreneurship by not understanding how to properly apply a system to a specific service or product.
Yeah, that's amazing. Nothing we do here is perfect. I could say that 100%. There's nothing we do in entrepreneurship or anything else that's always 100% perfect. And if you're waiting for that 100% perfect to happen, you're going to be waiting a really long time.
Yeah, there's some people who are the exception to the rule. They luck up with the timing of a new venture that works out, but that's unrealistic. It just doesn't happen. It's almost the equivalent as winning a lottery, buying a winning lottery ticket. Like it's very far few in between.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And it looks like we had a similar childhood when it comes to starting early and wanting to be an entrepreneur and learning how to make those transactions. When I was growing up, the first time anything like that happened to me, my dad gave me $10 and we went out to the flea market, right? And yeah. I went out and did my thing, and I came back with 2 armfuls of stuff and still had $5. And so I was like, what do I do with all this stuff? I had a yard sale. I went out there and just threw my stuff on the lawn and said $5 here or $10 there, and I actually made a killing. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's because I was cute or if I was actually doing good. But from then on, it was like the candy sales, the magazine sales, the everything was school. Then later on, I was part of the FBLA, the Future Business Leaders of America, and then it just kind of took off from there. So I think we really, as far as that aspect has, we actually had a pretty similar childhood.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. Like you never know, you never know what you're learning in real time is going to become something or wisdom for a time in the future. So you don't like when you're experiencing, it seems like it's the fun thing to do, or you're learning something new, but it makes sense years later when you realize you've been introduced to something that you now need, and you didn't even realize it until the time comes. And I was like, oh, it's here. It makes sense now. You know what they say, 2020 is in hindsight. Everything always makes sense when you look back. It never makes sense in the moment or looking forward.
Exactly, exactly. And you make a great point about systems. You got to have those systems put together so you know where you're going, so you have that blueprint or guideline to move you along. Now, a lot of people that I talk to talk about SOPs or standard operating systems or standard operating procedures, I guess it so it fits.
Yeah.
Do you have a kind of a booklet or do you have anything that you set for yourself to set up your own SOPs that we might be able to learn from?
I'm glad you asked that. So SOP, that's not foreign language or acronym to me because I'm a veteran, and everything that we did was according to the SOP and whatever the AR is, or the Army regulation, or DOD, or Department of Defense regulation. So how I set my SOP up is basically it has to, first of all, it has to start with the legality of everything. Like, what are the expectations of me to be able to employ any system first? And then I build my system based on the expectations that are required by the county, the state, the city, or the federal government, or even tax code. So those are the first things I look at when I set up a SOP. And then I want to also, the first thing I'm going into is, okay, my system is going to be designed based on the needs of someone else. So if I'm going to have whatever my system is, it has to first benefit whoever my primary or secondary customer is, which is essentially my target audience. And what practices do I want to employ that will keep them engaged with what it is that I have to offer? And then I align my principles with the vision. And then with the principles and vision, that's when I get into, okay, my rule book, because when you build a system, you're not doing it by yourself. You're going to need help. So you want people to be the people that you bring on board. They essentially represent the brand of who and what you are as not just an individual, but a business. So they have to be able to uphold the integrity of not just your product, your service, your knowledge, or the experience that you're providing. They have to uphold the integrity of the brand itself, because that's what people are buying into.
Exactly, exactly. The integrity of the brand, everything that you said. Everybody, I hope you got that. I hope you wrote it down.
Yeah. Don't let that one. It might seem like it's insignificant, but it's not, because if you don't have that system in play, then your business becomes transactional, and then the moment the transactions slow down, you'll get discouraged, and then you can't go forward because you're gonna feel like you're failing, and then you're gonna think, oh, I maybe this wasn't for me. No, it was. You just didn't do what was required of you first. So the most attractive thing about business is what it can provide to you down the line and how you fulfill your why. But the problem is your why can't be fulfilled without the why of the people that you're serving first.
And that's actually a point I always like to make is to make sure you serve first. And then
Yes,
everything else kind of falls into place after that. But if you do it the other way around, it just don't work.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so you know that most of my listeners are brand new entrepreneurs, but what do you think stops a lot of new entrepreneurs from getting across the start line in their entrepreneur adventure?
That's a good question. There's actually three things I think that are most important. I think you have to break the concept of time, because the traditional work life is anywhere between 4 a.m. to sometimes p.m. unless there's flex schedules. Just the way the consumer market is designed shapes our business structure. So you have to break your concept of time, because you can get a lot done in 3 hours as opposed to stretching it all out over the course of 8 or 9. So you have to break your concept of time. The next thing you want to do is you have to, and this is probably the most important thing, don't buy into everything that everyone has to offer you to help you grow, because you're buying into something that you still don't have a system in place to maintain. So you won't see a return on investment. Although you'll have the tools and the knowledge and the information, that's great, but you want to be able to turn over step by step all along the process. You don't want to buy into something that you're going to have to work 2 or 3 times as hard to recover from, and then now your business is 3, 4, 5 years behind because you made a poor investment. So that's extremely important. And then the other thing is the most important thing as a beginner, you got to be patient. You're new to it, so there's a myriad of things that you have to learn. Don't buy into, or you can like one of the things that's damaging the integrity of entrepreneurship or just business in America is the instant gratification. So I can sell you the success first and then make you suffer the pain that you're going to go through anyway. That's going to discourage you from stopping anyway. And now, because I've sold you, I'm going to go forward and fulfill my plans because you bought into what is essentially marketing manipulation because it's the art of psychology. So get with someone who's willing to take their time and spend their time with you and teach you. So if you don't have a coach, if you don't have a mentor, you're probably going to fail forward, as Darren Hardy would say, which is not a bad thing, but there's just things that you can avoid. That you're not going to avoid the failure. That's a part of the process. But you don't want to self-destruct because of your and take this with a grain of salt, your ignorance. You don't want to crumble and crush your inner identity because something externally didn't work out because you were left unprepared. And that's my heart goes out to startups, and I want everyone to know like it's a process, it's a journey, and it's a journey for a reason. It's honestly, it's the way God intended it. It wouldn't be worth it if you could have it all immediately or within the first 2 years. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Ignorance is not really 100% a bad thing. It's just as a way of saying, I don't know this yet, but I still
Yes.
have the capability of finding out about it, and then I can go ahead and move on from there. Uh, and then you make a great point about being patient. That's a huge, huge thing for me. I don't know if you've heard the story of the Chinese bamboo tree. Have you heard of that at all?
No, I'm not
No?
familiar with
Okay, so this is great. The Chinese bamboo tree starts as a nut. When you put this nut in the ground, it takes 5 years for it to actually grow. But if you stop watering it and stop fertilizing anytime within that process, that seed will die. Now,
Yeah.
after that 5 years, after that fifth year, that bamboo tree will grow in 6 weeks, 90 feet tall.
Mm.
So did that thing grow in 6 weeks or did it grow in 5 years? And obviously it grew in 5 years because we took the time to nurture it, we took the time to grow it, we took the time to water it, and we could use that information in our entrepreneur adventure. It's gonna take time to actually get it to where it needs to go.
Yes, correct. And a part of that process, a part of going through that journey, to reference your analogy, is along that process, that's your opportunity to be innovative because that's what's going to stand the test of time. You have to be a forward thinker to say, okay, my business is going to be here in 5 years. Okay, but what can you do differently along that 5 years that'll help it to grow to the 10-year mark? And when you get to the 10-year mark, what can you do beyond that to help it get to 20 years? Because business is not just for a lifetime. It's supposed to be a generational thing. So what you have to offer is supposed to be able to not just affect people's lives as long as you're living, but even when you pass on, you want whatever it is that you have to offer to be so good that it can change lives or it can improve lives over and over and over again through generations. So essentially, what that looks like is being able to offer something that's just undeniable that people feel is valuable and adds convenience and value to them at the same time.
Yeah, if we could reach that point where we have that generational value, where the next generation and the next generation can have a piece of that, that's really what it makes it worthwhile, not for just us, but for our kids, which I hear in the background, and that's okay, and so on and so on. I actually have two granddaughters now, and I'm thinking about not only what can I do for my daughter and help her in her entrepreneur venture because she's working on something right now, but what about her daughters? What about my son's kids, and so on and so on. So I always kind of keep that in the back of my mind when it comes to what I'm doing now to be able to improve the lives of my next generations and so on.
Yes. The people that benefit from you as an entrepreneur, business owner, they'll appreciate it, because then that's what I talk about this a lot. It's what establishes your legacy. People will always remember. Walt Disney is a perfect example. He's gone. He's not with us anymore, and they're still improving on what was a small, minute plan of his in the very beginning, with a bigger vision down the line. And we have some of the most monumental experiences that we can ever dream of at his theme park. And not only that, he's established something that's so profound. It's in other countries, and it brings people together all over the world. Like Epcot is a perfect example of that, and down in Orlando. I've gone twice, and I'm taking my children to help them understand what's actually happening in the world. It's people coming together to experience moments in time that they're going to want to experience over and over and over again. And as an entrepreneur, you want to be able to provide that.
Exactly. Exactly. And then another thing that you kind of hit on to a little bit earlier, but I want to see if I could kind of go swing back to it here. But your time management is so huge in entrepreneurship. And I was just kind of curious how you kind of set up your time, and is it something that we could learn from?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. I'll kind of spill the beans with as much as I can give in this period of time. Choose one day a week for each specific task. So let's say, for instance, if you're in the business, let's say you have a dessert that you sell to your local market or something like that. You want to pick a day where you do nothing but prepping for the cook day. So you want to make sure your supplies is organized. You got everything you need down to the highest and the lowest quantity. Then you choose a day to actually cook. Then you choose a day to deliver. Then you choose a day to rest. And then you choose a day to game plan on how to make your product better. Then you choose a day to go spend time at the place that you're selling your product at, to see what type of customer engagement your product is getting at that location. It'll help you to understand more about what it is that you have to offer. Like, for example, if I were to take muffins to, and my wife does this, so do I drop her muffins off at she makes vegan treats, so I take them to a coffee shop. And sometimes I'll stop in there just to have some tea, and I don't want anything. I just want to see, well, what is the shelf like with her product, and that lets me know what's selling and what's not. You want to be more involved, get involved. So pick a day where you can spend time. You can spend time connecting with the people that buy from you and that invest in what it is that you have to offer. So for me, I choose Sundays. Anyone who wants to get a chance to know me, you got to get to know me on a Sunday. If you want to be in a presentation of what I have to offer, it has to be on a Monday. If you want to be involved in any of my services, it's going to be on a Tuesday or a Thursday. If you want to interview to become a part of my company, it's going to happen on a Wednesday or a Thursday. I set days for specific tasks, and it has to happen in a certain time block. So I never do anything business related before 9 a.m. And I never do anything business related unless I feel it's something special and valuable to others after 6 p.m., because that's the time I spend with my wife and my children. So, and sometimes I may not even get that opportunity. Sometimes I'm overloaded with tasks. So, but you want to control your schedule, because if you don't, then you'll get drowned. You start to drown in it, and then you'll get overwhelmed. And then that's when your mental health will start to tank, because you're not organized. You're moving in 1,000 different directions at one time, and that's not healthy. And it's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for your family. It's not healthy for your brand. And it's not healthy for whatever it is that you have to offer, because you're not going to give your best. You're going to give what you can give with the time that you were able to invest in it, which is not a lot, because you're overtasked.
Exactly. First, I want to say thank you, Dr. DeAngelo, because it is after 8:30 and you're on here with me. So I appreciate you taking the extra time to. You said it was
My
something
pleasure.
special, so that made my heart go wee. So, but
It's my pleasure.
and everything that you named off are all very powerful. But there's one that kind of hits home for me, and rest.
Gotta rest. You
Got
have.
to rest.
And I know that there's people who say you can sleep later, or you can, no, you have to, you need balance to be effective. You need to have balance. You need to have rest. You need to exercise. You need to practice good habitual hygiene. Just like everything, like it's all one. It's everything that you do. It makes a difference. But if you're not rested, you're not going to be effective. You're not going to be effective.
And a lot of people think that if you don't rest, there's an extra time that you can do something in that last hour or whatever it is instead of sleep. But when you have that rest, you're so much more efficient that you can accomplish so much more in that same amount of time if you have a proper amount of rest, and your brain is working properly and you're running on all cylinders. You'll have so much more done in an hour than you would if you would have stayed up and only did half work. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. I had that experience last week, Jesse. It was I stayed up till 3 in the morning preparing a presentation, and then when I got up to give the presentation, I was just like, I don't even want to be doing this, and I got through it as best I could. But had I gotten a little bit more sleep, and life happens, we have to give credit where it's due. Sometimes life just doesn't allot us the time we need to be most effective. But you got to be intentional about the rest piece, because a fresh mind and an ease mind is you think so much clearly about what it is that you want, and then you'll start to see your vision manifest in front of you, because you've been able to go into the foundation and the building of it effectively at the highest interval, is what I say, the highest interval of the body, which is not just the body but the mind also.
yeah, and if you don't get that rest, a lot of things, I'm going to kind of use it in a kind of weird way, but your brain uses a lot of that sleep time to be able to store away information that you've learned in that day or in that time. If you don't give the brain time to file that away, it starts to back up. Your brain starts getting foggy. You aren't thinking the way you would normally do. Things start going bad.
Yeah,
So that's why a lot of rest is super important. If you can get that 6 to 8 hours of sleep, great. If you can hit that deep sleep zone, do it. You got to be able to have that rest to be efficient in your entrepreneur adventure.
absolutely. I don't know if everyone who's listening knows about who this guy is that I'm about to mention, but he's no longer living, but his name is Dick Gregory. He's an African American male, and he talks a lot about the body and how it's designed to operate. And he started speaking more about it in his latter years before he passed. But he mentioned something interesting that I learned probably, I want to say, 2 years ago. He said that after the sun goes down, the body is naturally programmed to desire rest within 30 minutes to an hour after the sun completely sets. So if you don't, which is interesting, because if you follow that structure, you'll end up woke at 3, 4 in the morning, energetic, doing a whole lot more. It's so weird how it works, but you find, and it's easy to say to rest, and it's unideal for everyone. We have to let's be fair to the audience. I'm sure you'll resonate with this, but sometimes you can't get the rest because there's a demand that requires it. But still, if you have a structure, if you have a system, which, going back to what we were talking about earlier with business, if you have a system, even when you have to step away from that system for a minute, it's easier for you to fall back into it to maintain that balanced way of living. Because if you don't have the balance, it's just not going to work out. And even if it did work out, you won't even be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, because at the very end of the day, you have to be able to enjoy what you do. Otherwise, it just becomes a chore and you don't want to do it anymore.
Absolutely. I'll tell you something so interesting, man. And I I don't know if you know about the transportation industry, but I had two businesses in transportation and logistics these past 4 years, and I made millions of dollars. And people ask me, like, why did I stop doing it? Because I made so much money. I walked away from it because it was 14, 18 hour days sometimes. And even when me and my wife and I, we went to Cancun 2 years ago. We went to Cancun, and I spent a lot of money trying to create a moment that I knew I wasn't going to get again. But I couldn't really enjoy it because I couldn't decompress the way I needed to, because I had driven myself so insanely wild. So, and to put it short, I walked away from that business for that reason. It took entirely too much time away from me. It took time away from my wife. It took time away from my kids. So that's not, I realized it wasn't working. And that's when I started to learn, okay, it doesn't matter how successful you are in business. It's not worth it if you can't enjoy your life, because that's what's more important anyway.
Exactly. So let's all keep that in mind when we're going along entrepreneur adventures or anything else for that matter. Is it worth the sacrifice of the thing? Is it worth the sacrifice of the family? And if you have to sacrifice your family, then it's not worth doing, especially
I,
family on top of anything else.
yeah, yeah, and I'm proud to admit, though shame to experience. There was a lot of times where I just feel like my children didn't want to be bothered with me because they was getting a stressed out version of me. So when you start to see those things, they cause issues in your immediate surroundings. That's when it's time for you to kind of discover, like, okay, what am I really doing here? And I always, this is the biggest thing I always tell anyone. I don't know what everyone's religious belief is, if anyone subscribes to anything, but keep God first in everything. If God is involved in it, it's going to work, and He'll show you how to navigate through whatever it is your business idea is. Because remember, your gifts and your talents and treasures, they're not for you. They're for someone else. Because even when we pass away, someone else is going to have it anyway. So we have to keep that in mind. Just be intentional about why you're wanting to do what it is that you want to do, because the reward sometimes is not what you think you're going to enjoy.
Yes, yes. Let's all keep that in mind. I'm going to ask you a different question, but I'm going to put a little spin on it for you, okay? I'm sure you've had
Okay.
this question where, what is your hardest pitfall, or what is the most pitfall, blah, blah, blah thing you've always run into? What I'd like to know is if you ever had a pitfall that you were proud of. I'm glad I had this pitfall because out of this pitfall problem I had, this amazing thing happened in its place. Did you ever have anything like that happen to you?
Yeah, you know what? This is a good one, man. And, I like to be real. I like to be personal. It has to be me and my wife's separation.
Mm.
That broke me because it separated me from everything, not just my family, but it also separated me from me being able to keep my structure to maintain my business. So losing everything that's near and dear to you, losing it all, helped me rediscover what it is that I really, really, really wanted to do, which is teach and coach and train and speak and guide people in the right direction. Because, and I'm sure you see this a lot, but there's a lot of predators out here in the business world, and they do not care if you're successful at all. And I've been through every emotion. I've had the wins, I've had the losses, but going completely broke and walking away from a multi-million-dollar business, that's not easy, because it pays for your daily living. So to kind of go in a different direction, like that's the seeing rock bottom will show you everything about who you are, to help you get back on the road to go in the direction that you should have been going in the first place. And going through that showed me that that industry was never for me to begin with.
That happens to a lot of people. We don't want it to happen that way. But sometimes for us to be able to open our eyes to our situation, it takes us going all the way to rock bottom to realize what we had before, what we've lost, and what we could gain, what new knowledge we can gain from starting from the bottom and working our way back up again.
Yeah, yeah, and going through that too, there's other things that I had to look at, like what the stress did to my physical health and my, like, just a lot. Like everything changes when you're not well. So rock bottom. A lot of people are scared to fall and fail, but honestly, I believe that's where the greatest wisdom is. The greatest wisdom is at the bottom, which is where the root of everything is, because from there everything has to go forward. Once you're at the bottom, you ain't got nowhere else to go but up. So don't be afraid of the bottom. Just don't go to the bottom intentionally by making irrational and impulsive decisions.
A lot of people will end up sabotaging themselves and end up there at the bottom. And let's not do that. There's no need to actually do that. We could still learn anyway. But if we find ourselves there, we know there's only one way from there, and that's
Yeah.
going up.
I recommend this book, Darren Hardy's The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, Entrepreneurship Roller Coaster, I believe it's called. But it's one of my favorite books. I read it probably 3 years into running a successful business, and it gave me a greater insight on what it is that I was experiencing. So I would definitely go get that book and read it, and then also read Howard Gardner's Five Minds for the Future. That's another good book because it teaches you some concepts of being innovative, but also leadership. Because when you're running a business, every decision that you make, you are the beginning and the end of that decision. And everyone along the journey who's there to experience that moment and that time of growth with you, they're going to be affected by it. And if they're affected by it in an adverse manner, then you got a greater problem coming in the future that you may not even be able to control, because you've just put something into place that your system has to pivot and adapt to, and they may not be able to adjust as fast as when the problem comes back to you. So being an entrepreneur, you're a leader, and being a leader means being able to properly serve. because that's just how it's designed. It doesn't work any other way. Entrepreneurship is about service.
And we go right back to serve first, right?
Absolutely. No matter where it starts is where it ends. Like it's service. Like it just has to happen that way.
And I'm going to add one more book to that if you don't mind too. If you do find yourself in that rock bottom part where it doesn't seem like anything's going right and you're just in that bad place, The Big Leap from Gay Hendricks is probably one of the
Yeah.
best books.
Yeah, that's a good one also.
That book changed my life because I was there for a while. And after I read that book, I realized there was so much more.
Mhm.
And so I'm just going to kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, and one last thing, don't be afraid to fail because you have to be able to understand the wisdom of what it's like to be on both the winning and losing side of every season of your success. You're successful even if you can't monetize it or quantify it, but you don't be afraid to fail because you need the wisdom for later on down the line. You have to be able to understand how to deal with certain situations when they rise because at each level those problems come back. They just don't look the same, but the root of it and the pretty much the baseline of whatever that challenge is, it's always going to look the same, which is pivoting with the economic demands of what people are looking for.
Exactly. Do you know, I always like asking this question when we talk about, do you know the acronym for fail?
I don't know that one. I want to say I've seen something like it before, but I want to say no, just to be honest. I don't know.
That's all right. First attempt in learning.
Yeah. Okay. Not yeah. I remember that one. I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? That was I had an entrepreneurship. It was like a class when I was in high school, and that was the first time I heard that one. She Miss Y Street. I'd never forget her name. She was an older woman, but yeah, like it was. And you know what? Every day in entrepreneurship is the first attempt because it's a new day, and no 2 days are the same in business. Although it may seem like it, but no 2 days are ever the same.
Exactly. You don't end up with that same person sitting in the same place every single day. There's either
Not at
sitting
all.
somewhere else, have a different personality or whatever. So we got to take every day as it comes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, in your vast accomplishments, what is probably your biggest accomplishment you've had thus far?
Oh, so I think my biggest accomplishment is seeing people align with my vision because I can't measure it, but seeing people align, like it lets me know that I'm finally true to probably the biggest thing I'm ever going to do. So seeing people connect and align and stand behind what it is that I'm trying to accomplish on such a global scale, I think that's the biggest accomplishment. And the reason why is because it's bringing people together, and no business is successful or anything in life is successful without people involved in it. We have this phrase that in Hounds of Business and a few other communities of entrepreneurs that I deal with on a regular basis. We always talk about people over profit, and that's an excellent way to look at it because anytime you remove the heart of the people from it, that's when it begins to fail because it took people to even build it up. So my biggest accomplishment, it has to be connecting and aligning people under one common umbrella for whatever the mission is that they bought into. Because people, which is why the name of my company is Different Reasons. I don't know the reason why people support me, but people understand the mission, and that I've aligned people all over the world, and it is like one of the greatest rewards. I never in a million years would have thought that I would be a growing global figure. It's so interesting. And I haven't burst through the cracks of popularity, which is good because I can hold the integrity of who comes into my organization. But man, Jesse, it's the greatest reward ever. I like speaking overseas and just seeing people support me. People that don't even understand English and they saying, yeah, yeah, well, it's beautiful. It is so beautiful, man. It is so beautiful.
All right. So, what I like to do here is, like I said before, all my listeners, or most of my listeners anyway, from what I made to understand, are all brand new entrepreneurs. So, if you had one good, solid piece of advice for somebody that's just getting started in their entrepreneur adventure, what would that be for them?
Solid advice. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be pray first, and then don't be afraid to ask for help. When you ask for help, don't rush into obtaining the help because sometimes the help that's going to present itself is someone who's going to charge you something that you can't afford. slow down. Do not rush. Do not rush. And the most important thing, enjoy the journey. Enjoy the process and the journey.
Fantastic. That's some fantastic advice. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right, so what I like to do with all my guests, every single one of them, is we get a 6 month goal for yourself and your business. So where do you see yourself and your business in the next 6 months, Dr. Angelo?
Oh, okay. I'll give away my secret.
Uh-oh.
In 6 months, I intend to pay for 10 trust funds for aspiring entrepreneurs to give them a safety net as they're going through their journey, to be able to draw something to fall back on should things go south. So in 6 months, I see myself successful enough to start paying for trust funds for other entrepreneurs and some even the younger aspiring entrepreneurs. That's one of my primary goals right now, and I think in 6 months I'll be able to do it with a really large group of people who see the value of why I'm choosing to do this. And everyone's not doing it, but I'm going to be paying for this out of my own pocket. It's something like I can't wait to see the smiles on people's faces, just knowing that they have that bubble and that cushion to just be able to feel free enough to take risks without worrying about if they're going to fall too far, down to the bottom. So that 6 months, man, and taking my earnings and reinvesting it into other people's legacies, which is what I do, because me, DeAngelo Richardson, doctor, for different reasons, I bring legacies to life by adding value to people, businesses, and entrepreneurs and organizations.
Fantastic. That's so honorable. That's amazing. I really am glad you're doing that. So what I'd like to do for you is in the next 6 months, I'd like to have another interview with you, just like this one, and follow up with you and see if you actually reached those goals. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Just gave me more motivation to make it happen. So yeah.
Exactly, because you're not just accountable to yourself and me. Now you're accountable to my entire audience. So you
Absolutely, absolutely. And if I don't do it, ask me why. That way I can explain what happened along the journey, which would be more wisdom for people to understand. It may not go the way you plan, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
All right. So before we go, I need to ask you kind of what's with the lions behind you, bud? What's the deal there, buddy? Because there's
All
a lot
right.
going on there.
So, all right. So I always like to give a presentation that no one can forget. So behind me, you see a lion by himself. He's the leader. He's just alone. And it goes through segments of what it's like to be a husband, a father, a man, a person, a leader, or just a person that leads a pack. So what it does is it transitions. So you see him alone now, the next you'll see him with the female lion. That's the beginning of a system. Two people come together to create something new. So after this part, you'll see a transition again, and then you'll see cubs, which are the children. And then after that, you'll see a transition over, and then everyone's grown. So that's the part of a growing system. That's how ministries work, churches. That's how families work. That's how businesses work. That's how schools work. It doesn't end. That cycle of life, it never ends. And if you see now, they're just kind of mingling around and things like that. And the next scene, you see, like I always try. Everything about what I do is branding, and my spirit animal is a lion also. So it just aligns with everything that I say and teach and advocate. I'm never going to tell you anything that I don't believe in myself, and I always like to display it in a kind of creative way. It's just marketing and branding for me. So.
That's so awesome. I'm really glad you do that and told us. It really tells for a great story because for me, it was just a bunch of cute animals behind you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it tells a great story. So if anybody wants to see all this we're talking about right now, head over to the YouTube channel right now because I know this particular part's in audio, but I do have it on a YouTube there. So take a look at Dr. Angelo's background there and see the whole story happen and unfold behind him. All right. All right, Dr. Angelo, this is your time to shine. This is your time to advertise yourself. Tell us about how we get a hold of you and your services. Okay, ready,
All
set,
right.
go.
Okay, so if you want to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn primarily. You can find me on Instagram, and you can find us on TikTok. If you want engagement, you're more than likely going to find me on LinkedIn. So I am the founder and president of Different Reasons Incorporated, and we company for profit because we believe in taxation to provide for essential services. And what we do is we teach, we coach, we train, we mentor, We add value to lives and we bring legacies to life. And what I mean by legacies is we help you get on that road and journey to discover who you are, what it is that you want to do, and we make the resources and the training affordable and available to you so that you can be successful without having to overinvest in your ideas. Now, why am I telling you that? Because I'm the only one in the world right now who's willing to do it at the most affordable price, and I'm going to make myself available to you as well as my team, and we're going to open up our network to you. I know people all around the world who work in different industries, and I brought them all into one community to make them available to you all because sometimes we can't all travel the road of academia. So, different reasons. Tell me your reason, and I'll help you discover the number one reason why you're doing what it is that you're doing, and then we'll make your legacy come to life. My phone number is there on the screen if you're watching YouTube. So is the website, which is currently being redeveloped. So if you want to just go check it out and see, kind of get a visual understanding of what it is that we're doing, you can find it there. My email's there also. Feel free to give me a call. That is my direct line. If I don't answer, shoot me a text message. Let me know how you found me, and I'll be sure to kind of take care of you a little bit more. I always offer free things, so don't worry about what it's going to cost you to get my time. A lot of my time is made available to you for free. I don't charge all the time. I want to make sure that if I'm going to help anyone, I have to be the right person for you. Always remember that you want the right help. You don't want any help. You want the right help. So if you're looking for me, there it is in the YouTube station or right there on the screen. And again, don't be afraid to give me a call and reach out to Jesse because we'll be keeping in contact a whole lot more often than the audience may think. But if you want to get in contact with me through him, he's an open door for you. And again, like I'm grateful and I'm honored to be able to help anyone in the world. Just make sure that you have your plan and you're intentional about what it is that you're going to do, because I'm going to encourage you to go forward. And I don't believe in quitting. I don't believe in giving up. And I don't believe in stopping the greatness that you're destined to achieve in the first place. That's why you were created.
Yay! Very good. I love it. That's awesome. We had the whole picture and everything. That's the first time.
Thank you.
So, you want me to teach you how to laugh like Scooby Doo real quick?
I can't. You know what? I would feel embarrassed in front of the camera doing it.
No.
Let's go. But I mean, yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I've only taught one other guy how to do this on my show. So all right. So this will be fun. Okay. Now repeat after me, just like I do it. Okay. You ready?
Okay.
So say this. Re-hee-hee-hee-hee-hee. Just use the tones.
I got it.
Don't funny. Okay. Just do the tones. Just do the tones. Re-hee-hee-hee-hee-hee.
Re-hee-hee-hee-hee-hee.
Very good. Do it again. Re-hee-hee-hee-hee-hee.
Re-hee-hee-hee.
Now growl like a dog.
Yeah. I see it coming out. I see it.
No, growl like a dog. Growl like a dog. Do it again. Okay, now go.
Yo, it's funny, man. Like, I can see that it's something that could become a muscle memory type of thing. The more you do it, the more you. Yeah,
I've been doing it for almost 30 years, so
you're natural. Now, it was probably you doing the voiceovers on the cartoon back then.
Oh, I wish it was me. I wouldn't be doing this right now. I can tell you.
Right.
All right, Dr. Angelo, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Undiscovered Entrepreneur. I really appreciate you, and I really hope for the best for you over the next 6 months. We'll get back at you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Scoob Believers, make sure you stay tuned for the wrap-up. All right, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, Scoob Believers, that was Dr. DeAngelo. What a great conversation. I loved his lines in the background. Make sure you look on the YouTube video so you can see what's going on back there. Anyway, there was a couple things I really took away from this, and I hope you did too. Embracing failure is a stepping stone. Dr. DeAngelo highlights the importance of viewing failure as a valuable learning experience. By embracing setbacks and analyzing mistakes, we can gain valuable insights that propel us forward. And remember to prioritize rest and balance. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to neglect self-care. Dr. DeAngelo emphasizes the significance of rest, balance, and maintaining optimal performance and mental well-being. By prioritizing rest, we can recharge our minds and our bodies, leading to increased productivity and creativity. And with that, I'm going to say Thank you very much for another episode of the Undiscovered Entrepreneur, and I will see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.